Good evening, everyone. We now move into the fourth and final session of today's STT program on Indian knowledge systems and values in higher education. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker for this concluding session, Srimati Pranathi Venkatayogi Garu, an accomplished technologist and Sanskrit scholar and a proud alumna of NIT Warangal. Srimati Pranathi Garu holds a BTech honors in computer science from NIT Warangal and a master degree in computer science from Purdue University, USA, and is currently completing her Masters of Arts in Sanskrit from Kavi Kulaguru Kalidasa Sanskrit University, Ramtek, with an outstanding academic record. Her professional career spans over 2 decades in software design and development, with significant contributions at Microsoft, where she worked on Skype Messenger service server and virtualization projects, earning a patent from synchronizing event history across multiple clients. She has also worked with the Motorola India Electronics Limited and later with the Kairacom, architecting video over IP solutions. Alongside her corporate career, she has pursued her passion for Sanskrit and Vedic wisdom and also founded the Lighting of Godhead or Anuttama Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to teaching and sharing Indian knowledge traditions. And now she is currently working at the intersection of computational linguistic and Sanskrit studies by applying her technical expertise to decode ancient texts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to welcome such a multifaceted personality, a technologist, innovator, Sanskrit scholar, and a cultural ambassador. Please join in giving a warm round of applause as we invite Srimati Pranathi Venkatayogi Garu to deliver her online lecture on the Sanskrit scheme, a computational analysis of Amarakosha's encoding logic. Over to you, ma'am.
And before that, just 1 or 2 points. I don't know how many of you know the value of Purdue University. I was in USA for a short research program in the University of Texas at Arlington. At that time, I had an opportunity to visit this. This is one of the top universities, to be frank enough, in the technological field. Madam was a student of NIT Warangal, and then she did her master's in Purdue. And of course, she's now dedicated her entire knowledge, efficiency for Sanskrit language. And she has been continuously taking a lot of efforts in making this Indian knowledge system. Friends, many of us, by having a seat in NIT Warangal, are going to US, and we'll think of going for a big job, earning. But she is not that type. Rather than earning, she is learning. There's only one alphabet: L-E-A-R, learn, E-A-R, and earn. Rather than earning, she is learning. Really role model, and she's taking care of her both kids in educating them in Sanskrit language. And she came out from US and spending good amount of time in India just to give good education to her kids, both sons. I was so amazed to see her profile and to know about her. And great fortune to have Pranathi for this program, and really appreciate and welcome her. Thank you. Please go ahead, Śyāmalā.
Thank you, sir. I was not expecting actually. I was only preparing my own profile to introduce myself. I am really pleasantly
So anything,
surprised.
we have to give something without expectation. Then it will be different taste, flavor.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's more than overwhelming. Yeah, whatever we have done is all direction of Sri Krishna and our spiritual mentors and spiritual masters. They
Great.
Unless their guidance, we would not know how to efficiently navigate through this life, material as well as spiritual lives. Just one clarification. I just finished my MA actually last May. So, and also we took voluntary retirement. Now I'm fully into working for my non-profit in spreading Bhakti and Sanskrit. And, that's it. The rest of the life is
We
in
have been
service.
dreaming and thinking of voluntary retirement, but we are unable to. We are able to do it so engaged.
Okay.
Great, great.
Okay, so let's get started. I don't know in Google this thing there is a okay highlighter is there. Okay, good. Okay, it looks like PowerPoint. Okay, this is the first time I'm attending the on Meet. Okay, okay, let's go. Let's get started. Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for welcoming me. Let's see. Hopefully, I'll be able to give justice for your time and maybe you'll learn something. Let's see. Together we'll begin this learning journey. So the title was Sanskrit Schema. I think, okay, that disappeared from here. Okay. Sanskrit Schema, Computational Analysis of Amarakosha's Encoding Logic. So basically, there are two aspects to it. One is Amarakosha. I will also give you a brief of what is Amarakosha in case all of you don't have Sanskrit background. And there is some encoding in that. That's one thing. And also, we look at it how can we automate it, like in the sense of how can we see from a computer scientist point of view and use this knowledge to further write some tools to decode it. That's the whole idea. So okay, but let's have some kind of a, feel of audience. So how many of you know Sanskrit little bit? Is there a way I can check? Is there a way you can raise hands or something?
None of us have any exposure,
Okay.
frankly speaking. We are all
Okay.
illiterates in Sanskrit, please.
Okay. And what about computer science?
Yeah, I think maybe one or two scholars. None of them, most of us are other branch, and
Okay.
there are some pharmacy people and something like that.
Okay. Then I can safely present. Nobody
Yeah,
can.
English people are there, I think. English people are there.
No, no.
Literate.
I'm not
Right.
presenting in Sanskrit, but in the
Linguistics,
sense.
no one is, all are technical background.
Okay. Okay. That's good then. In case there is a mistake, nobody is there to catch basically. Anyways, okay.
Very
So
nice, very
yeah.
nice.
So my name is Pranathi Venkatayogi or Śyāmalā dāsī in devotee circles. Okay, so let's begin with agenda. So what we are going to cover today is that first there I will give you an introduction of Amarakosha, like what exactly it is. So the goal I'm looking at from this session is two things. One is looking at the computational outlook of the Amarakosha, also to give you a taste of Sanskrit language itself. So let's see how it goes. Okay, then I will give you some Sanskrit background which is required to further analyze Amarakosha. Then Amarasimha is the author for Amarakosha. What was his mission? Like what were the complexities he was thinking about while he was contemplating and during the process of creating this scripture, Shastra. Then after that we'll get into decoding logic of Amarakosha. Okay, and then Amarakosha, the parser. This is where the computational part of it comes. Once you understand the decoding logic, how would a parser look like? What are the different stages in it, and things, and what would be the pseudocode? Mhm. And then we will see the application and take home message, and then finally conclusion. Okay, so this is a brief, like what you're going to see today. Okay, so let's begin with introduction. So what is Amarakosha? So in Sanskrit, kosha is a Sanskrit word. Kosha means a dictionary, basically. You can think of it as a dictionary. So dictionary for what? Like, for example, there are words in the world, right? We need to know, let's say, maybe a difficult word, like, for example, um, some maybe English word like incredible. Let's say some word is there. Then if somebody doesn't know the meaning, we look at the dictionary and we'll find the meaning and then, oh, incredible means this, right? Like that. So similarly, for Sanskrit words, basically the vocabulary of Sanskrit nouns mainly, there are two aspects for any language, right? The noun and the verb. Verb are action words like eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Generally we all are familiar with these terms. And the nouns are the what to say. We all know, right? What is a noun is an object, name, place, animal, thing, right? Or the person who actually works on the activities or the person who is the object of the activities. There are multiple elements there, right? So Amarakosha is actually a collection of the nouns in the thing. But before we get to that, is written by Amarasimha. It's way back in 4th to 6th century BC. Very, very old, ancient, but rich literature. What it gives is the instruction of Nama Linganu Shasanam. Okay, Shasanam is instruction. of what? Nama and Linga. Nama is nothing but name, basically nouns. Linga is nothing but gender. Okay, in Sanskrit. So it is the compilation of various names. But names means there are many in Sanskrit, there are many synonyms. See, for example, if you talk about Krishna, right? Then you have Vaikunta, Narayana, Hari, Damodara. There are many, these are all synonyms referring to the same object. So he also includes that as name actually. So all the main object or the main name and then the synonyms of all the names along with the gender. I will come in a little bit, what is this gender with respect to Sanskrit. We know masculine, feminine, neuter in English, but there is a different aspect in Sanskrit. I'll let you know. I will share that in a minute. And this Amarakosha is nothing but a shloka, or composed in a chanda. Chanda is nothing but a meter. It has a rhythm to it. There are rules in Sanskrit how Sanskrit words have to fit with Lagu Guru pattern to fit a particular meter. So why the stricture is there? For example, it has 32 syllables. A shloka should have 32 syllables and 4 quarters, 4 padas. And this is a simple or the simplest meter in Sanskrit. There are many complicated meters where every letter is restricted. Like, the first one should be Lagu, second one should be Guru. I'm not explaining what is Lagu Guru here because this is not a Sanskrit class. But just assume there are some definitions by which a swara or a vowel becomes a lagu or a guru, and there's a pattern. Like, for example, la 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 ga 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 ga, like this. There is a pattern, and a person who composes the shloka in that meter should exactly fit the words to match that. Okay, that's what I want to emphasize here. And this is a typical, this is the most easiest pattern meter. So Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita has most of these meters. Like Bhagavad Gita, for example, you can say dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. So that is 32 letters, and it's divided as eight words like this. Okay, so Samarakosha can be sung actually. That's the main advantage. So that's how, and it's a 1600 shlokas are there total. Okay, and it's memorized even today. That's why, because it is singable, it is easily memorizable. Even now, in all the Gurukulas, this is from childhood, kids memorize this. Because once anybody has Samarakosha in their brain, most afterwards, later, when they start composing their own shlokas or stories or anything, the vocabulary is already there with them. You see what I'm saying, right? Imagine you're writing a essay or something, and every word you have to look at a dictionary. Oh, what it is, how difficult it is. But whereas everything spontaneously is in your brain, you just think about object and you immediately the shloka will come and you pick a right word based on whatever meter it fits and you put it. That's it. So it makes everything very efficient. Okay, even our boys are actually memorizing this, and actually the very fact we are in Vrindavan is because they have Amarakosha exam in Delhi. That's the reason we are here. So it's a very wonderful scripture, and I am also more attracted to the computational aspect of it. That's what I wanted to emphasize today. Okay, and how many sets are covered? It's very important. There are about 4017 unique sets. Sets like this, basically unique names and their appropriate synonyms, and their linga is also described. Okay, so you can I just wanted to give you a feel of how much breadth, what is the breadth of this composition, so we can appreciate that better when we talk about the complexities involved. So, and it's also very logically structured, because imagine a kid is going on memorizing. If the unrelated stuff are at different sections, it's very difficult for him to recollect. So he very nicely contextually grouped them. He divided that into 3 chapters or khandas. The first is called Prathama Kanda. It talks about invisible world, like all the Swarga and Patala and other things, all Vishnu and Shiva, Lakshmi, all the things will come here. And Dvitiya Kanda is the local, what we see, like earth, mountains, different flora, fauna, everything. It seems the Vanaspati Varga in this Kanda is the largest, where actually all the Ayurvedic people also look up for this, for meanings as a reference. Ayurvedic doctors. And Tritiya Kanda is a technical rules for more language grammar related stuff. Okay, so you can see, right? He is nicely, first of all, he thought through how to divide this in separate sections. So it is easy for anybody to easily get to where they want to when they want to. Okay, so now I'm not going to go through this, but you can also see there is actually individual sections called vargas within each chapter. Okay, so Swarga Varga deals with heaven and deities, like for example, like that, you know. So you can, I just want to give you a feel of the logical divisions he envisioned when he composed this one. You know, he titled him Atadhi Vargaha. It's about intelligence. He talks about the synonyms for mind and other, you know, things like that in this context. Like that, everything is logically grouped. Okay, so similarly, there is a, you know, Dvitiya Kanda. They're divided into, it's all about earth, for example, or mountains. Different names for different mountains and trees. One is Vanaushadhi Varga, I was telling, right? Not Vanaspati Varga, Vanaushadhi Varga. Trees. Okay, like all this different things. Then Tritiya Kanda is miscellaneous, all related to Sanskrit related stuff. This is just for you to give a feel. You know, I'm not going to read through this and everything. Okay. Now let's come to little bit Sanskrit background required for anybody to, you know, process this, so that when you go to the parser, you have some enough tools to understand what I'm speaking. So first is numbers or cardinality. Numbers in Sanskrit, right? Um, Numbers means, actually I'm not talking about Sankhya or, you know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not the number sequence. Actually, I should have kept maybe cardinality, like we have Vachanam in call in Sanskrit. What is, we have a singular and plural in English language system, right? We don't have for two entities there is no separate you know, kind of category. But in Sanskrit there are there are three elements for the cardinality. There is singular, dual, and plural. Okay, singular refers to one person. Okay, so and the form of the word you use differs based on whether it's one versus two versus three. Okay, see, for example, I have an example over here. If there is only one Rama you're referring to, for example, Ramaha Gachati, Rama goes. So you have to use the form Ramaha. But if you are talking about two people, for example, Ramau is the form you should use. But if two are distinct people, then you say Rama Lakshmanau, right? So Rama Lakshmanau Gachataha. The Gachataha also changes. You know, that's the difference. So verb also changes according to the karta or the doer. Okay. So now we are focusing only on the nouns here. That's why I didn't write the other example of the verb here. Similarly, if it's a plural, then this form also changes. It will be Ramaha. Or you can say Sita Rama Lakshmanaha Gachanti. No, that's a compound word there. So you can see that actually this rich, you know, kind of, in a way, we have to add an extra dimension for your thought process when we deal with Sanskrit, because now you have to think about dual also. Okay. Whereas in English, these both are merged together. Okay, that's one aspect to remember. Now let's talk about genders. So in gender, in English also we have three genders: masculine, feminine, neuter, right? And there are many rules to identify what type of gender is a particular word. Okay, there are many variations and exceptions and everything, but here I have a most commonly used pattern. So whenever something is in masculine gender, it ends with a visarga, or, like, you know, you can say H with a dot down. Okay, I didn't put it in Devanagari, thinking maybe many of you may not know how to read Hindi. So that's why, you know, I'm doing like this. So it's a Ramaha and Krishnaha, like this. That's the right way of using the Pullinga form. With Srilinga, there it ends with a dirga, right? You know, like basically a long vowel, a or e. So you say Radha Gopi, like that. And if Napunsakalinga, it ends with mu, actually ma with a halant. So patram, pushpam, halam, toyam. So I try to put like this because I teach Sanskrit to our devotee children. So I try to give some Krishna conscious, you know, examples for them. And actually, when our kids were small, I even made a poem for this for them to easily remember. Because all of you are grown up, I will not sing and embarrass you. Okay, so then next very important point to remember is In Sanskrit, the gender is grammatical, not biological. See, the English, what happens is, English language system, okay, we know all the men or all the masculine entities get a masculine gender, or they are called like masculine gender. And all the feminine entities are called with feminine gender. And all the non-living things like table, chair, computer, everything are called neuter. Okay, basically the gender is attached to the object itself, right? That's what is called biological. But in Sanskrit, it is the gender is associated with the word you are using to refer to that object. So if I give an example, it will be easy for you. See, for example, let's take an example of a snow. Snow. So if you see, there are words in Amarakosha or vocabulary which are actually masculine words to indicate snow. See, for example, niharaha. If you tell, that's also snow only. Okay, and there are other multiple examples here. And there is a feminine word to indicate snow. Mihika. See, is there. So we know it's feminine. And there is also a neuter word to indicate snow. Tuhinam. See, is coming here. So you see the difference, right? This is a very fundamental thing everybody needs to learn when they're trying to learn Sanskrit. The gender is associated with the word itself based on the way it has been learned from ages. There are no rules for which word has which gender. The only way is to learn from Amarakosha and dictionaries like this, where they have put it together how the people have used since time immemorial, and they have said, okay, this one is called Srilinga. So a Sanskrit student should repeatedly kind of hear and build this vocabulary. Okay, Rama is Pullinga, then Radha is Srilinga. Like that, over the period of time, he will build this vocabulary. Or if he memorizes Amarakosha and learns the decoding logic, which I am explaining, it will be in his fingertips. Okay. So everybody understood this thing so far? Any questions? Okay.
Yes, I'm understood.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's move on then. Now, so the complexity now is when Amarakosha or Amarasimha has to compose the nouns, and these nouns could be any of this, so he needs to embed the information of what gender they are in also. That's what we need. It's important for us. He cannot just tell snow, because the snow can have many words which are in different linga. So he has to tell, for example, this is Punlinga, this is Srilinga, this is Napunsakalinga. He has to put it in the shloka format. You see, right? You understand, right? The complexity is increasing. Okay. So now another element of Sanskrit is the system. I know what is the underlying way this language is built. This is a very important concept. This is similar to what we see in English, but if you look at it in this way, it makes it very, very scientific. Okay. So any English also, we have something called base form. Okay. You can think of it as a raw form, things like the base form, and there is a suffix. See, for example, if you say walked, right? You can always think it's walk is a base form, ed is a past tense suffix, which makes it past tense. But you can make it also present continuous by saying walking. Use the same base form, but use a different suffix and the meaning changes. Like here we have eating. Okay. So this is an example in English. Now we'll see the same thing is in Sanskrit, or rather it's reverse. Everything came from Sanskrit. But this is how I teach kids. So, they can relate to the concept they already know. It's easy for them to process further. So in Sanskrit, it's called Prakriti Pratyaya Vyavastha. Vyavastha is nothing but system. Prakriti is a base form. We also see, right, material nature. You can think of it like that. Base form, and Pratyaya is actually a Vishnu's name. So it's also, it's called suffix. Okay. So system of base forms and suffixes. And there are two main entities, as I said, nouns and there are verbs, right? And the specific suffixes for nouns are called supratyaya. You don't need to remember this, but just because I need to do two categories, it's called supratyaya. And for the verbs, they're called ting pratyayas. Suffix. Pratyaya is nothing but suffix. So group of suffixes are named. This is just a name of the suffix. Okay. So that makes it Ramaha. Okay. So Rama is actually just Rama without the Visarga is actually the base form. And then there is another suffix called Su. I don't have my pen here to write, but because I'm traveling, but Su is another suffix, and that with the grammar rules it changes and becomes a Visarga. Okay. So Rama plus Su finally results in a word called Ramaha, which can be used in the sentence. So basically, sentence or the padam, the basically a valid word in Sanskrit should end with either sup pratyaya or ting pratyaya. That's why there is a rule called sup tingantam padam. Anta means ending. So the ending letter, ending suffix of a word, of a sequence of letters should be either this or this to be used in a sentence. So for example, the base form Rama I cannot use in a sentence. I have to use Ramaha only. You can say Ramaha gacchati. Rama is only used for Sanskrit derivations. That is called base form or pratipadikam in Sanskrit. Okay. You understood, right? So why I'm telling this, it builds up little later. Okay. So now other concept you need to also learn is something called samasta padam, or samasta is, you can think it's a collation, compound word. We also have this concept in English, right? We have, for example, book table. See, book can be used individually, table can be used individually, and they have individual meanings. But when they come together, they have separate meaning. Like book table means a table which has books, or you can say bookshelf, or you can also say tree house, right? So similarly, the different individual entities, even though they can be pratipadikams, they can come together, or pada actually come together, and they can become a big compound. So to make it a concise expression, instead of saying Ramaha cha, Lakshmana cha, Sita cha, means I'm saying Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, I can tell Sita, Rama, Lakshmana. That's what is the meaning for that. You see, right? It basically makes it a short form, like how we say etc, right? Etc. Like that. You can think of it like that. It's a compound word basically. See, for example, Radha Krishna. It refers to both Radha and Krishna. Okay, Radha Krishna Jayataha means let the glory be there for Radha and Krishna. And Sita Rama Lakshmana. And based on the number of entities, the suffix also becomes, see, because there are three people, it becomes plural, so it becomes Lakshmana. Because there are only two entities, and ending one is masculine, so it becomes Rama form or Radha Krishna form. Okay, so this is a dual, this is plural. Okay, now this is also very interesting. See, this is the whole encapsulation of a state machine of Sanskrit language. Okay, how the states get changed in order to build infinite words in Sanskrit. And you can see these loops can go like this, and you can have a very very big word indicating such a big meaning. But right now I'm not going to explain this yet because it's not a Sanskrit class. But I will point your attention to this one particular phrase called pratipadikam, which is a base form for the nouns or entities. And then the supratyaya, when it added, then it becomes a proper noun which can be used in the sentence, right? So that's why that becomes, this is Sripatyaya, sorry. Here, Supratyaya. When you add Supratyaya, then it becomes Subantam Padam, which can be used in a sentence. Similarly, the root form of the verb is called Dhatuhu. When you add Ting Pratyaya, it becomes Tingantam Padam. So these are the entities which we can use in a sentence, whereas these are the raw entities which we cannot use in the sentence. Okay, and there's some transformation and logic and rules. That's what Vyakarana teaches. When Rama is attached to Su, it becomes Ramaha. There are rules defining that. Okay, and then we'll get Suptingantam Padam. Okay, so, and you can see there are sometimes it can go, like a loop. See here like this. See Dhatu, when the Skrut Pratyaya, it becomes Pratipadikam, then you get Supratyaya, then you add Sanadi Pratyaya, it becomes a Dhatu again, then it's eligible to take more. You see what I'm saying, right? That's why Sanskrit can express complicated meanings based on the pratyas. And the way to learn Sanskrit is not by translation. Okay, this word is equal to this. Of course, base elements, we need a dictionary. But if somebody understands the meaning of the suffixes, there is meaning for the suffixes, and somebody understands the meaning of the base words, okay, base words you can understand from the Amarakosha. And if you learn the logic of what is the meaning of suffixes, and when they attach, how the meaning changes, that's how you understand the Sanskrit language in Sanskrit, not by other tools. Okay, this is just for you to give a taste. Okay, so now let's get into the mission of Amarasimha, what he was meant to do, and what is in front of him. And actually he expresses his mission statement in his own shloka in Amarakosha. Okay, so that is number 2 shloka. So I'm going to read this. समाहृत्यान्यन्यत समाहृत्यान्यतन्त्राणि संक्षिप्तैः प्रतिसंस्कृतैः सम्पूर्णमुच्यते वर्गैर्नामलिङ्गानुशासनम्. So he's telling what he's doing in this shloka is, and I have put a translation here. So he has having gathered the information from various other treaties or shastras, anya tantrani, tantra means nothing but shastra, and by condensing samkshiptaihi and refining pratisamskritaihi them, this work called Namalinganushasana is spoken of in its entirety, organized into complete sections, vargaihi. Okay, so that's what he wants to do. So first of all, he read all other dictionaries or koshas available there and figure out, what are the different meanings. So he didn't reinvent any meaning. Whatever is available, he is just presenting in a most efficient and easy way for all of us. And then, first of all, he makes it very, very condensed form. I will show you how he does. So basically, whenever the linga is obvious, he doesn't express that this linga is this. He uses a very efficient route in that way. And he also refined them. There may be some mistakes, things like that. So he made sure it's not it doesn't have any errors. And he organized into different sections, and he spoke everything in entirety. The whole thing is organized into sections. That's what he's telling. Okay. Now, I have the same thing in the chart form here, so it's easy for you to samahritya. So he has collected and gathered, samkshipta, condensed them, and he refined them prati samskritaihi. Sampurnam, he complete in the form of classes and sections, vargaihi. And what he wants to do, he wants to give an instruction of names and genders. Okay, that is his mission statement. And we already saw there are about 4,000 different sets, and each set has many synonyms. So there's so many words for him to put it in this pattern. And along with that, there are other complexities also. What is that? First of all, this is the main complexity, is that he has to, when he thinks about the words, he has to put it in a way that it fits into the meter. As I said, the Lagu Guru pattern that has to be fixed. And just because it fits, sometimes, there's something called filler words in Sanskrit. Like, once in a while there'll be like he or why. He means indeed. Why means indeed. Sometimes they just add these words so that the meter fits. But actually, it doesn't really enhance the meaning. Okay, so if he uses a lot of filler words like this, then he's wasting the brain of the child who's memorizing. So he needs to make sure that he organizes the words properly, that it follows a pattern, at the same time it conveys a meaning, at the same time it fits the meter. So you can just imagine what a extraordinary task it is. And also you need to have some parsing delimiters, because what happens is, because you can imagine this as a stream of Sanskrit letters he has written in a manuscript or something like that, right? And even in the kid's memory, it's a stream of words. And suppose the one word which he is defining the synonyms ends in, let's say, maybe the pada 3, right? Then the rest of the pada 4, he is supposed to start a new synonym, new word, right? So then how will you communicate that okay, this word is over, now we are starting a new word? Otherwise somebody will think all this next of the following things are also attached to the synonyms of the previous word, right? So that's why he needs to think about how to embed some delimiters to make it easy for people to recognize where the word boundary, or rather the semantic boundary, is coming. Okay. Then also he needs to do contextual grouping. As I said, he cannot put like Ramaha in one shloka and put like maybe what is it, Dasharatha Nandanaha in fifth shloka. Then there is nobody will understand that this is a synonym of Ram, like this. And always he has to do a balance between brevity versus clarity. Because in Sanskrit there is a way you can this is called ekasheshaha. If there are two words of same pratipadikam, you can combine them into one single phrase. Like for example, there is one shloka where it says nabaha and nabaha is there. Nabaha is nothing but a pullinga form. Nabaha is for the same pratipadikam nabas. Nabas, there is a napunsakalinga form. So if he does this, kind of say condensation, then he will get the form like Nabo, or what is this? Nabansi you'll get, Nabamsi. But when you see Nabamsi, then you don't know which is what. You'll get confused. That's why in those cases, he explicitly puts the Pullinga form and Napunsakalinga form explicitly so that there is no confusion in decoding it. So in some places he has to use explicit mentioning. In some places where it's obvious, he can condense it in the form of compound words. So always he has to juggle. And he actually explicitly mentions that he chose not to use this, Ekashesha form, or the condensation form, as well as Dvandva Samasaha, in order to avoid confusion. Okay, so that's another challenge. And of course, there are many synonyms for the words. So he has to think about this. Sometimes it doesn't cover like infinite possible names, but most of them are there. A maximum are covered. That's why in any dictionaries, if you search, you go to ashtadhyayi.com. It's a very nice tool for Sanskrit. You search any word, first reference you get is Amarakosha only. Later on, other dictionaries are built up. And then there are variegated linga attributions. Basically, some lingas, some words can be a valid pullinga form and a valid napunsakalinga form also. But the same pratipadikam. So he has to tell, for example, examples will come later. He has to tell certain word, and he has to tell it can be used in pum and napum, or he has to tell it cannot be used in stri. So he has some extra coding he needs to do in order to cover the completeness of the. Sometimes, when we are given a task, when that complexity arrives, we say, "Oh, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to only specify the pullinga form of all the words." He can take a shortcut like this, but you can see, right? He tried really a lot in order to cover the completeness of the whole thing, cover most of it. So now let's get into the. So far, everybody's okay. Any questions? Everybody's okay, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Fine.
Okay, good. So then let's move on to the decoding rules. No, ma'am. Okay, good. So for that, I'm going to first relate you to the decoding what we know from computer science background, but most of you don't know some computer science also I think. But let's see, maybe I'll teach some computer science also now. Okay, so there's the internet we work, right? When we do browser, like let's say krishna.com, we go, then the web page loads. There is a server at the other end which sends the packets. When somebody sends krishna.com, it sends information to the other end, and then other end processes, then puts them together and displays it. Now information has to come from the server to the client, right? How does that information come? In a way that too, it's on the wire, right? It's not like our up or mail letter. Then it takes forever to load the website. So it's so almost instantaneous, right? So these are bits, in the form of bits. It's transferred over the network, high speed network, what you say. And it should be done in a way that the other end can basically, you're sending a packet as bit streams. Like it will be like 10111101. That's how it comes. That's it. The other end needs to get that in that sequence and it need to rebuild the packet, because some of the patterns like 1011 refers maybe A, and 20 other. You see what I'm saying, right? It needs to know there are ASCII encoding, that for some number of bits are assigned. If suppose 8 bits are assigned, first 8 bits are processed and uses the encoding logic to figure out, oh, actually it's a letter B, like that, and that's rebuilt at the client side and displayed on the screen. So then what can we envision as for sending these packets? So I'm not going to detail all these things. For example, there's something called Ethernet frame. Data is an important thing. Okay, there are other fields. So this data has an IP packet. Okay, this data has an IP packet. Then this has some some fields. It's called length and protocol. Sorry, checksum. And then there's some more information, and again data is there, and this data is nothing but actual TCP packet. Okay, so these two fields become very critical. These will be like, you can say they are like a I don't know what English word we'll use, but information it conveys about the actual packet. So other end, it processes all this and it knows a specific location. It has the length, so it reads the length first, and then it knows, oh, until this amount of length is actually the packet of this packet. And then finally it rebuilds, and there's a checksum calculation, and calculates and make sure that none of the bits got disappeared in the somehow in the wire, and make sure it has a correct packet, and then it goes forward and uses the packet as it is. So if it's a wire, if the bits are coming on the wire, then we need a length and a checksum to make sure the other end knows how to kind of reparse it again or rebuild it again. Okay, this is in the IP world. Now let's think about Amara decoding. What is needed for that? Similarly, you can think of this as Sanskrit letters coming on the wire, right? It's just old time manuscripts are written continuously. It's written fully. There is, so like assuming here this is one Sanskrit Amarakosha first shloka. Swaravayam Swaravyayam Swarganaka Tridiva Tridashalayah Suraloko Dyaudivo Dvestriyam Klibe Trivishtapam. So you see, if somebody, like most of you, as you said, you don't know Sanskrit, for you it's just the letters coming in, like okay, came, va, came, a, came, r, came, like this, right? Because now at this point we are just processing ones and zeros, right? So then we need to do some processing in order to make sense and extract the meaning out of it, so that the internet page really displays Krishna's picture and some shlokas on the website, right? Otherwise it's one zeros. If it is plain, nobody will understand what it is. So there is some amount of parsing required for this decoding or parsing. So what is the first challenge is we need to understand where does the pada begin and end. As I mentioned, the padas are the valid Sanskrit words, and he is actually saying these words. So we need to have a knowledge, what is the pada delimiter, or what is the ending form of a pada. Okay, where does a pada begin? See, for example, in this case, it's not really the space. This space is not actually a delimiter. This space is only for readability. In Sanskrit, even if you don't have space, all of this, the meaning will be same, because the encoding or the delimiters are defined somewhere differently. Okay, that is the we are that's a Sanskrit learning tutorial. At some point I will teach. Okay, so in this case, actually, swar is a pada and avyayam is another pada. And there was a combination, because swar plus avyayam came combined together, it became swaravyayam. So somebody may think, oh, this space is a delimiter, swaravyayam is one word. No, there are two words here, swar plus avyayam. Then how do we know when the pada begins and ends? That's where the Sanskrit learning comes. Sanskrit learning teaches us the rules of pada. As I said, when we identify the pratipadikam, when we identify the pratyaya, and when we we memorize the tables, Ramaha, Ramo, Ramaha, then we know, oh, Ramaha, when it comes with, it's actually a full pada. So I can break it at that point, like that. And then another thing, so even if you know all these words now, because Amarasimha is teaching us more. He's teaching us what is the, for example, here, Dves Triyam. So here is telling Dyau Divau is actually, these two words are in Strilinga. That's the encoding he is given here. There are two words here, Dyo, Diva, Div. Okay, they both are Pratipadikam here. Okay, and both Pratipadikam, he's telling, they take a Strilinga form. This whole thing is one kind of, he's conveying something with this. So then there is so he's encoding that in the shloka itself. So then so the goal of reading Amarakosha is that what are the properties, gender and cardinality of the pada? Sometimes, for example, here it's a bahuvachanam, or rather, plural case, right? In some cases, he uses singular. So we need to also know whether he's mentioning a singular entity or dual or plural. Okay. See, for example, Ashwini Kumaras are twins. So he uses a dual for them, for all their meanings. Like Ashwinau, he says. Okay. But whereas for Devatas, because he refers to all the Devatas, he uses Bahuvachanam or plural. But for Rama, Krishna, he uses singular. Right? So his shloka, we need to also identify whether he's referring to what cardinality is referring to. Now, what does Amarasimha encode? Amarasimha, this, so we can also say the first phase is called syntax decoding or syntactic decoding. So we are just dealing with words. We don't have meaning of what they mean, but we are just like, parsing them out as, okay, this is a word, this is a word, this is a word. That's it. Okay. See, for example, here, swar, avyayam, swarga, like that. This is a compound word like this. So whole thing is a compound word. Then sura lokaha is one word. Dyau, divau is one word. Dve, striyam. So we split it. This is called padachedaha. Okay. Splitting them into words. It's called syntactic decoding. And this one, where we identify the properties for the word, this is called semantic decoding. Where now we are associating meaning. Okay, actually, as I explained, right, these two are actually in Strilinga. So what Amara Simha has done is he has given the semantic decoding, because syntactic decoding is assumed, because the children, by the time they memorize the shloka, memorizing can happen very early, even before the knowledge of the language, but gradually for them to understand, they should be in a stage where they know what are padas, what is the samasta pada, what's the meaning. For example, here sura loko, there is a sandhi here. Sandhi is transformation which happens when two words come together. Actually, it's sura lokaha individually, but because it's followed by a particular letter, there is a transformation. It becomes O. We see that in Bhagavad Gita also. If you go now and observe, you will see suddenly O is there. But if you see in the Srila Prabhupada's word to word, aha only will be there. Okay, because there is a sandhi transformation. So the child should know all of this. The syntactic decoding is assumed. Child will know, or anybody who's learning will know. But this is what information he is communicating, because this is not known. This is what he is telling. He's telling, okay, this word should be used in this linga. See, for example, here, klibe trivishtapam. Trivishtapam is napunsakalinga. Right? Klibe, he is telling. You use that in napunsakalinga. He is defining that. Okay? Clear? Okay. Now, so we'll go to the next slide. So the rules. I don't know how I'm doing with the time. Am I going very slow?
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
It's
You're going
okay.
with a good pace. Maybe
Okay.
another 20-25 minutes maximum.
Okay. So, so the decoding rules also, he only has placed specified them in his shlokas, the first initial shlokas. Okay. See, this is the one. प्रायशो रूपभेदेन साहचर्याच्च कुत्रचित् स्त्रीपुं नपुंसकं ज्ञेयं तद्विशेष विधे क्वचित्. So what this means is, the gender, feminine, masculine, or neuter, should be known generally by the form of the word, rupa bedena. As I said, right, this is a optimization he has done. If it's Ramaha word is there, everybody knows it's a Pullinga. So he doesn't need to tell Ramaha Pum. Then he's wasting energy, or the bandwidth of the words. So there he's saying typical patterns, you get it on your own. Implicitly, you understand. Okay. And in some places, by its association with other words, sahacharyat. Later, I will give you a table of these examples. I'm now just giving the meaning. So he puts the words of similar linga on both sides and unknown linga in the middle, where normally people will not know and they get confused. So that way, because of this association, we can assume that, oh, this is a Pullinga which is known, this is a Pullinga which is known, and middle one is Pullinga. So he's telling, how he has put it in a way to avoid repetition or make it concise. Okay. And he's telling his rules. And similarly, he's saying in specific instances, he explicit rules he tells, like we saw, right? Like Dve Striyam. He tells both are Strilinga, right? Like that. He will Vishesha Vidhi, means specific instruction he gives. This is to be like this, like that. Okay. And the next, okay, see, for example, here. Yeah, this is the same thing we saw, right? Pullinga, Ramaha, like that. Now, the next shloka also gives the decoding rules. He has two shlokas for that. Trilingyam Trilingyam Trishviti Padam Mithunetu Bhayoriti Nishiddhalingam Sheshartham Tvantathadina Purvabhak. Okay, so what this means is, the Trishu, when he uses the word Trishu, means in three. Okay, it indicates that a word used in all three genders. That particular word, all three genders are valid for it. So same word can be transferred. I'll give you represented in three lingas. The examples will come in a bit. When he uses Vayoho, means he's saying a couple. Both only, it's a couple. So male and female. When he uses Vayoh, means it has both male form and female form. Nishiddha Linga means he's saying don't use that particular linga. Rest of the two lingas are appropriate for that guy, that word. And finally, see, I told you, right, the delimiters, such a way that we know when this particular word synonyms are over and a new word is starting. So for that, he is saying there are delimiters. Twant, Twantathadi. Okay. Tu, Atha, Adi. Okay. So that's because of some because of the sandhi it changes like that. But the three words, whenever he uses a tu, atha, adi, means actually that word which is ending with these words do not belong to the preceding group of synonyms. So when I give an example, it will become clear for you. This is just for you to know the concept. So now I'll show you the chart. Maybe it may be too overwhelming for you guys, but okay, let's see. See, Rupa Beda means by form. We know, right? Visarga ha will be Pullinga ha, Mumlinga ha, A, E, Srilinga ha, will be Napunsakalinga. So, for example, in these cases, he doesn't specify the linga explicitly because it's assumed the Krishno. Because of the Visarga, with Sandhi, it becomes Krishno, but actually it's Krishna. Correct? So we know it's Pullinga, so he doesn't specify again. So it's a Vishnur Narayana Krishno Vaikunto Vistarashrava. So it tells like that. So then based on this, we all know these are all Pullinga because we know, okay, this is Pullinga, this is Pullinga. Oh, it's very easy to guess. Three, for example, for Lakshmi Devi, Padmalaya, Padma, Kamala, Shri, Haripriya, Ya is coming. So based on that, we know it's three. He doesn't need to specify again. Similarly, Napunsakalinga for Padmam. Padmam, Nalinam, Aravindam, Mahotpalam. So all of them Napunsakalinga. So he doesn't have to specifically do specify again. And I mentioned about association, grouping by gender. See, for example, here, Kshetrajnaha is basically this is referring to living entity or Jiva. Kshetrajnaha is a living entity, it's a Pullinga. Purushaha is a Pullinga. Atma, see, even though it's A, we get confused that it's a Srilinga, but he has put it between the Pullinga. So we know this is also it's actually Atman Shabdaha, or the base form is Atman, and in the derivation it becomes Atma. Okay, so like that. Similarly, other examples are there. So we understand the concept. So I'll not go there. Vishesha Vidhi. See, he says, Va Pumsi Padmam. So Padmam is saying, optionally, it can be used in Pullinga. So you can say Padmam or you can say Padmaha. Got it, right? Like that. Similarly, Prakriti is Striyam. Prakriti should be considered as, because Visarga is there. Then we think, oh, it's a Pullinga. No, Prakriti is actually Strilinga. Okay, because this has to be learned from tradition. It's and the we have to learn from the koshas. Klibe Trivishtapam. Okay, explicit. He's telling Klibe. This is in Napunsakalinga, like that. And Trishu. When he say Mandalam Trishu, Mandalam is an Napunsakalinga, Mandala is a Srilinga, Mandalaha is a Pullinga form. But the same, it's a sun globe basically. And Dvayoho, like Dvayoho, Jwala Kilau. So basically, they are existing in both Pullinga and Srilinga form. Like Jwala and both words are there. So Jwala and Kila both have Jwalaha and Kilaha also. Like that. Forbidden. So it's saying Kashayo Stri, saying Astri. Don't use a Srilinga for Kashaya. So that means it is only valid for Pullinga and Napunsakalinga. Okay, so Kashayaha and Kashayam, like that. And the delimiters, Tu, Atha, Adi. See, for example, here, see, Heturna Karanam Bijam Nidanam Tu, Adi Karanam. See, until here, Hetur na is actually indicating Pullinga, Hetuhu is Pullinga, Karanam is Napunsakalinga, Bijam is Napunsakalinga, because we know it's is coming. And now Nidanam is coming. So we may think Nidanam is also, this Karanam, right? It's a reason, basically, cause. We may think, oh, Nidanam is also a synonym for Karanam, but actually he put Tu here. So when a word is ending with Tu, then here the new set starts. Okay, wherever it ends, the new set starts from the previous word. So Nidanam means Adi Karanam, the original cause. Like we say, Krishna is the cause of all causes, right? Like that. Nidanam is Adi Karanam. But these are like other causes. So to make a pot, there are many causes, like the mud is there, and potter is there, and the stick is there, rotation is there, wheel is there, right? But what is the root cause is a mud, right? Without mud, nothing will exist. Or even eventually root cause is Krishna. Like that. So similarly, there's one more example here. You understand, right? So this is very critical here. These are all sequence of letters, but where do we switch the context from one word to other word? Okay, so is it too overwhelming so far or okay?
Okay, ma'am. Like in Vishesha Vidhi, like how can I mean it break the rules that we framed earlier that I didn't get.
This is overriding. You understand the concept of overriding? There is a common pattern, and sometimes we explicitly tell, um, explicitly tell, okay, this has to be this. Whenever there's explicit rule, that overrides the general rule,
Okay, okay.
right? Like that. Always explicit mentions take higher priority. See, for example, if you say, all boys sit down, but Ramesh stand up. Okay, see, all boys sit down, Ramesh stand up. Means what? Ramesh should sit or stand? Ramesh should stand.
Then
Correct?
yes, ma'am.
Like that. Okay. Okay, so now let's get into the parser. What is our, now we are applying the Sanskrit computer science angle to this. And if you were to, knowing this decoding rules, if you were to write a algorithm or a program, how would it look like? So first is there, they should have two phases, as I mentioned. So syntactic phase should be there, where it just goes through everything and splits into valid Sanskrit words based on the grammar rules given in Vyakarana Shastra. How the children have studied, like for example, Ramaha is a valid rule. So their grammar rules are given by Panini in Vyakarana, and actually there is an effort of automating that and programming, making it programmable. That given a sentence, it will automatically process the rules and gives out the words for you. I actually worked on that project as well in my MA. So there's Sanskrit word splitter. You can think of it like that. Then the semantic phase. This is nothing but the Amarakosha decoder. Once you have individual words, and then you say, oh, if it's a tu, then we know in Amarakosha, tu has a different meaning. So use that rules and actually now apply all the other rules of what is this gender and whether it's as both two genders or three genders versus whatever. So if I look at it, how would it look like typically? It's like this. For example, you have a list of delimiters, tu, atha, and adi. Then while not end of stream, so you can think in unlimited or rather stream of letters are coming. So then you process the stream until you find the pada, final full pada is processed. Identify the pada. That's a syntactic phase. Then initialize the variable, a variable called pada. Like, okay, now you're starting Ramaha, for example, like that. Then you set the properties for that based on the rules given by Amarakosha later, cardinality and gender. For example, Trishu means you have to use three genders. Dvayo means you have to use masculine pumlinga, like that. Based on the whatever he specifies, you assign the genders. Then you add that to the synonym list against that pada. And whenever there is a pada is in delimiters, then you have to go a little back and then start a new list. Okay, so this rough, very rough pseudocode, but definitely I'm also very excited. Hopefully, somebody should can do this as a PhD project. Actually, the whole thing, write a program to decode and get the display of because so far ashtadhyayi.com also all this is are manually fed into the system. They create Excel sheet or something where they say, oh, Ramaha, whenever somebody searches for Ramaha, you give this output. Everything is fed into the system. But if it can be generated by understanding the logical rules of Amarakosha, definitely it will be more easy to automate. Maybe they're already doing it. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's something to think about. So now we are leading to almost the conclusion. So if you understand this decoding rules, what will happen? There is a faster retrieval. So once a child memorizes a shloka, and actually that's why they're preparing for this exam, right? So I was teaching them how to, based on this rules given by decoding rules given by Amarakosha, Amarasimha, how do we understand the linga? While the shloka is going in their mind, if the rules are also parallelly processed and fastly processed, when somebody says, okay, give me a Napunsakalinga, give me a Pullinga form of sun globe, they will say Mandalaha. Right? Immediately you'll know, oh, it's a Trishu. It comes in three lingas. Oh, I will say Mandala. Or they say it's not valid. It's not, doesn't exist. So it gives you the faster retrieval. This is at a human level. But once we know these rules, obviously we can automate them, AI automation, and we can write Amarakosha parser for fun. And we can also appreciate, main thing I want to all of you to understand, how what an extraordinary contribution this is. given the complexities and everything to create a thing where even now people are memorizing to learn the dictionary. Such a accurate uh, expert work. Then we can also get a feel of what is the scientific thinking of the ancient sages. How, it's not that we feel, all the old is gone, old is waste, right? Oh, that's why we are bringing all this IKS, right? See, you can imagine how brilliant the sages are. They're so, expert, or their brain capacity, and more than all that, their compassion. They are envisioning, oh, in future, how will people study? So many koshas are there, so confusing. People, whoever tries to learn Sanskrit, they will find it very difficult. So they will strain their brain and everything to come up with a solution for all of us, so for generations to come. See, that shows their compassion. Similarly, another excellent work is Panini's grammar. It's such a, it has just 4,000 shlokas, sutras actually. It's called sutras. It's a very, very short forms. Like Vahu Viha Athato Brahma Jignasa, right? It's a Vedanta Sutra, we call it. Short forms, short codes. So you put everything in short codes. Of course, in a way, it's difficult to then understand what it is. That's the work of a grammar student. But once you understand, because you easily to it's easy to memorize the short form. Once you recollect the short form, you know exactly what's the rule is. And that's such a foolproof grammar system that it covers all the past Sanskrit words, all the future Sanskrit words, and all the words existing in the world right now. See, you can imagine what kind of logic is there in building that just in 4,000 sutras. Okay, so and then that's it. And then we also get a taste of the rich Bharatiya literary tradition. Okay, so that's why we have this image. Okay, this image is not coming or what? Ah, here you go. See, all the sages, they are working hard to help all of us, especially Manda Sumanda Matayo Kali Yuga, right? We don't have memory, we cannot process anything. So, give us something that at least, few people can at least attempt to learn Sanskrit basically. And Sanskrit is a key. So, we may call it IKS, we may read translations or everything, but if somebody can learn Sanskrit, they get access to all this wonderful literature and appreciate our heritage and contribute further to the society. So Sanskrit becomes the key. Okay, so in conclusion, we discussed introduction to Amarakosha and brief Sanskrit background, where we talked about genders, the Vyavastha system of base form and suffixes, and also we discussed about the cardinality in Sanskrit, right? And then what is his mission? That he wants to concisely present everything, of course, but without ambiguity. That was his main goal. And then we talked about decoding logic, which he himself mentioned explicitly. Okay, you don't have to figure out what logic I've put. This is the intention, this is what I've put. You read it like this. Then based on that, we came up with a short pseudocode for parser. And we discussed, what is application and what we can take home. Mainly take home the appreciation for the Bharatiya Shastra Parampara. And that's how we can express the gratitude by actually taking the effort to learning them, so that we can uh, continue this tradition. Imagine if there is a generation nobody studies Sanskrit, what will happen to all this work, all the work which the acharyas have put so much effort for us? If one generation is lost, that's it. The knowledge, even though maybe eventually again there will be some brilliant generation who comes up and again learns from scratch, and again they revive. But that's a contribution we can do to help our sages to learn and continue the tradition. So again, to keep in touch with me, this is my email address in case anybody has to say, and this is our website. Because now that I'm in fully into non-profit contribution, I am launching a lot of courses about Bhakti as well as Sanskrit. So the very upcoming courses we have right now in March, we are starting conceptual overview of Bhagavad Gita. So basically, this is mostly for college goers or institution students, or especially my after my reunion. Recently, I attended REC reunion last December, and then I introduced some of the friends for the Bhakti path. They were interested, so to take them further, they need to know the philosophy, right? It's not sentiment. So we are just giving a conceptual overview. I cannot take them the whole Bhagavad Gita; that will take years. But then just in 30 sessions, they will get to know what exactly are the main fundamental principles taught in Bhagavad Gita. So if all of you may be devotees, but you can help forward the message to others whom you know, your friends. They don't need any devotional background. They can be fresh and they can challenge anything. Myself and my husband will be doing this session. And the next important thing, maybe if all of you are excited about Sanskrit, then we will be starting a new course for adults. So far, I have not started a course for adults. So many people are asking. So mostly in June, I will start. And there is no prerequisites, but at least I'm thinking if people know Hindi, it becomes easy for them. But otherwise, I can do even classes teaching them. But if that much is there and some amount of understanding English, I will take you through the whole process of getting to know, the Sanskrit, because actually it requires an expert teacher. Because people, of course, in Samskrita Bharati and Central Sanskrit universities, people are studying Sanskrit, but they cannot express that in the normal colloquial terms, which all of you are familiar with, like English or giving examples which you know and things like that. So they require you to first know how to speak Sanskrit to learn Sanskrit. So then basically learn Sanskrit grammar. Then it's like a cycle. Where will I start, right? So that's where I am contributing. I know a little bit of Sanskrit and I know English. And my kids know how to speak fluently. I don't know how to speak nicely, properly yet. I'm working on it. But so that way I can bridge the gap and allow people to enter into Sanskrit world. So later they can, because it takes a lifetime to refine a language, to perfect the language. So once we begin somewhere, little we'll work on it, work with our scriptures, and slowly we will build on the language. So this is our website. Of course, the link is there. You can always go here, and there's a WhatsApp group link there. So if you join that group, you will be getting notifications of when the courses are starting. If you're interested. Okay. So then, thank you very much. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Let everything be good be offered to Krishna, and all the faults are mine. Okay. So now we will ask for questions or comments. I don't know what's the time, but yeah.
We are well in time. That's no problem.
Okay.
And frankly speaking, you're a good teacher, frankly speaking. For the past almost 1 hour, you're energetic and live. The way you're explaining, one can see that, you're alive in the class. You're alive, making us also compulsorily hear the class. It's really good, Mataji. I really appreciate it. And I was so amazed to see, first time I'm hearing the words of masculine, feminine. You mentioned about Radha, Gopi, Rama, even first time I'm hearing that Napunsaka, the way you have Pushpam Palam Toyam, good. It's really good. And of course, because of this course, I don't know about others, I am also getting interest in Sanskrit. I don't know whether Krishna allows me to learn it. We take your guidance in case required. And some of us will join your course programs or whatever your husband is doing and everything. Really, it's a very, very nice talk, inspiring the so-called technical people towards linguistic learning of Sanskrit. I really appreciate your effort and thank you very much for making us.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyone with some observations, comments, or questions?
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am. It
Good
was
evening.
overall a nice lecture, ma'am. And I mean, at last you mentioned some upcoming courses. Those are like online courses or
Yes, these are online courses once a week. Zoom we'll conduct.
okay.
So yeah, so you can join if you go to the website, there's a link to join the WhatsApp group. Once you join, you will get notified when the courses are starting.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And we used to have Sanskrit in our plus two. Like earlier, you started with basic Sanskrit grammar, so it somewhat we recollected. And about IP decoding, those things also we are new to those things, as basically we are from civil background, so we learn from that also. And syntax and semantic decoding, and like some rules, decoding rules you mentioned, like Rupa Veda, Trishu, and Vishesha,
Vidhi.
Vishesha Vidhi. Yeah, that one. It was really fascinating to learn such things. Thank you so much,
Thank
man.
you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Nobody has a question. Nobody has any question, but everybody's
They have
appreciating.
only appreciations only.
That's good. I'm happy. In the Vrindavan Dham, I'm able to serve all your devotees to get your blessings. So yeah.
Actually,
So
ma'am, we are in the process of learning, so no questions.
Yeah.
okay, okay. No, but at least that means it was clear. Like there is a logical presentation. Otherwise, you feel like, oh, why from here she is telling this? What is the connection? You get lost, right? So if there is
Yes,
no question, means it's clear. The concept is clear
yes,
and you understand. Oh,
ma'am.
okay, okay. So I
Okay.
think
Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste, Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah.